Welcome to episode 8 of the Woke Mommy Chatter podcast. This is the finale for season 3. So before we begin, I have a few announcents. The first is that the Woke Mommy Chatter blog was nominated for a ByBlacks.com People's Choice Award. So yay! ByBlacks.com is a Black Canadian digital magazine, and I'm really proud that the blog was nominated. We didn't win, but it was a pleasure being nominated. So thank you to all of you who took the time to vote and to say how much you love the blog. I really appreciate that. So I'm really gunning for a nomination next year for podcasts. So I hope they add that category. And yeah, I think it was really exciting just being part of that and part of a number of like distinguished bloggers as well, it was great. So the second announcement is that the Woke Mommy Chatter blog is taking submissions. So if you want to build your portfolio or you simply have a story to tell, send your submission to wokemommychatter@gmail.com. On the Woke Mommy Chatter Facebook page, you'll see submission guidelines. So you can check that out there or on the Instagram page as well, just to see what type of stories we're looking for. But essentially, we talk about race. We talk about, if you're white, talking about, white fragility, perhaps what it's like being an ally. As long as you've got a story to tell that kind of really fits with what the Woke Mommy Chatter podcast and blog is about, I want to hear from you, and we'll be looking to share and post those online. So there's no payment attached right now to those submissions, but the goal is that eventually there will be. But it's a great opportunity just to get writing, getting your flow, and building your portfolio. And the last thing I wanted to say is a big thank you to all the sponsors who contributed to the Woke Mommy Chatter podcast and blog. So this year in January, I think I had started a sponsor page on the blog, on the website, and people have been telling me I should do Patreon, and I resisted, and then I thought I shouldn't do it, and now I'm thinking I should do it. So I'm going to take some time to really kind of think about that, and perhaps we will do a Patreon. But I just wanted to say, in the meantime, I really appreciate the people who really love the blog and support it. It's not easy doing these episodes every week, and you can see that I've missed quite a few weeks because it's time consuming, and life happens. So I really appreciate people who are willing to really support. I can't tell you how much that means. So thank you. That's wonderful. So yeah, this is the season finale. I will be back. I am definitely by the fall. I'm trying not to commit to a date, but definitely by September there will be a season 4 out. Whether it's sooner or later, or actually in September, we'll see. But this is a great time and an opportunity, if you haven't listen to all of the episodes, to kind of go back and listen, and I'll reshare as well. And I'll be blogging, I'll be writing, I'll be on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram in the meantime, so you can always get me there. So to the show. Today we are continuing our conversation with Kim Williams. Kim is the host of the Single Black Motherhood podcast. If you didn't listen to the last episode, just stop here and listen to the first part and then come back to listen to this one. So last week, Kim and I kind of started talking about what it's like to be a single Black mother. And this week we're really continuing, and we start off our conversation talking about Black fatherhood, actually, and what that looks like on Kim's show. So one of the things I found interesting about your podcast was the Black male voice. And so I was saying, you don't hear often Black men on Black women or Black mom podcast. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then I thought about that whole debate, right? About because you had on dads who were like single dads, right? And I thought that was really interesting. Why was it important for you to bring in the voice of Black fathers?
So I felt like it would allow the moms to like open their minds and kind of understand a little bit where some of the dads are coming from. Like not all of the dads are bad and not all of them like just, don't want to be involved in their kids' life. Like there are so many dads who desire to, be a part of their kids' life, but the moms lack the communication or they're bitter. And so I just felt that it was important for me to bring these dads on to kind of let the moms see see their side of things from their point of view without like them being able to fuss back at them, right? But just being able to like listen and really hear these guys out. It really opened a lot of minds. Now I did get some pushback, like I was telling you earlier, from a mom who was like, she didn't see the purpose of me bringing on dads. It's a podcast for moms and da 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 da. But I just thought that it would be helpful for us in being able to see their side of things. Because like you said, no one really talks about those dads who are really trying to be a part of their kids' lives. Like one of the dads, he divorced the kid's mom and he actually has full custody. So he has the kids 24/7, just like I have my daughter 24/7. And there's 3 of them, and he's a Black dad that's taking care of his kids. But, that doesn't get portrayed in the media. Nobody ever really talks about that.
No.
So, I felt like, I should bring that to the light because, again, like nobody really talks about it. And I thought it was important.
Yeah, I read somewhere, an article somewhere that said that Black dads are the most involved dads in their kids' lives. And I even more involved than white fathers. And I thought, that's so interesting because you're right. Like that is not what you hear. You hear about the absent Black father, right? That is when you think about Black moms, the stereotype is single Black mom. And then when you think about Black dads, the stereotype is absent Black dad. And that's like the broken Black family. Like that's what you think of. And that's not, I think we need to kind of we need to go beyond that and also recognize that if you're a single mom, like that's great. Like there's nothing wrong with that, and strip away all the negativity that's associated with that. What about you? Like, if you are okay talking about your personal experience, like, does your daughter have a relationship with her father, and then how do you manage that?
So we live in 2 different states. So he lives in Tennessee and I live in Texas. And so I guess whenever I moved, I think my daughter was around like 2 and then she turned 3 maybe. But she was so young and we were young. So I had my daughter, I got pregnant at 21 and I had her at 22. And so my daughter's father wasn't that involved, to be honest. He would pick her up and drop her off, but he would never like spend extra time with her, or I don't know. I didn't feel like he really understood the importance of being physically present. And I tried to talk to him, but it was not sticking. And he was raised in a 2-parent household. And some people say, well, look at his background or look, at what he's been through. And I looked at his household, I thought, well, his dad was always working and his mom was always the one at home. So maybe he thought that was okay. To where he just would work and provide financially for our daughter. And that was it. He didn't need to spend any time with her or help out. I would just handle everything. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, well, whenever I thought about moving, I talked to him about it. He really didn't have anything to say. And so originally when I moved, he was really I guess kind of bitter behind it. So he had stopped calling. He wouldn't really talk to our daughter. And then eventually, he came around and, started to FaceTime her every now and then. And now he's deployed right now. So he's trying to be more consistent. I don't know if being deployed has really triggered something in him to feel like, hey, I need to, do better with my kid or whatever. But as of now, she pretty much FaceTimes him maybe a couple times a week. But again, when he's back, we're in 2 different states. So She'll go and she'll spend some holidays with them, like typically, but that's really it at this point.
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about on your blog about mindset as well and changing your mindset. Why do you think specifically for Black moms or Black single moms, the mindset is so important?
Because I really believe that like everything starts in the mind, right? So you have these thoughts and your thoughts become words and then your words turn into action. And so a lot of the time we have these negative thoughts, whether it's, about our past or about what we're going through. And so I did this poll a while back with my audience and I asked them what were the biggest issues. And so I think it was finances, support, and what was the other thing? Finances, support, and time. And so one of the things I found out was that, okay, I did confirm like finances is one of the biggest issues. And I think the reason why is because we're so busy in the day to day that we don't take the time to really think about, how we can make extra money or, not depending on child support or getting mad because, oh, he didn't pay child support or he can't do this. He's not providing for his kid and just being in that whole like negative mindset. And I think that like causes single moms to be stagnant when they, just think negative all the time. And so that's why I'm always preaching about mindset, because I think it's important to really like change the way that we think about things. I think they have like an ability to really like impact our actions, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. What do you want the legacy of your podcast to be? So all these conversations about, single Black moms, even the title, like it's straight and to the point, Single Black Moms. What are you hoping the legacy of this will be?
So my goal for the podcast is to like really like touch the lives of these moms cause like I said, like we have this like mindset that, we're bitter, we're single moms, we can't do anything. And so my hope is that like the legacy like really touches the lives of these moms and causes them to change their mindset and change the way they think about things and the way that they do things. And not really using being a single mom as a crutch, right? And not letting it define them. And so not only are we like single moms, but we also have an identity outside of that. So I think it's very important for them to hear, these other moms that are single and that have been through it just like they have. Because like I said, a lot of times like moms will like shut down if you're not a single mom and you haven't been through what they've been through, but they will hear out somebody who has been through it and they're still thriving. So that is my hope for them that, come to the podcast for motivation or encouragement or just to learn, about things that they can do to better their lives.
As a young single mom, like what was your lowest point?
Oh, my lowest point. I don't know. I think probably I'm just, leaving my support system and being here, not really knowing, like after I didn't work out with my family, not really knowing how I was going to pay the rent and getting to a point where, okay, I got a second job, but now that job is gone. And I have to figure out how I'm going to pay my rent next month or where am I going to get the money from. I think that is like been my lowest point throughout this whole journey.
And what are you most proud of?
My ability to be consistent and really focus on like, spending more time with my daughter. I think for a while I struggled with just like making money. Just trying to pay the bills and do this and that I never really had the time to actually spend with her. Like I was literally like working 2 jobs all the time. So I think thus far, like that is what I'm most proud of. I like actually understanding the benefits of spending quality time with my child.
Yeah. I think that so much of what you talk about, like is it's different, but it's the same too, right? Like spending quality time and trying to find the time. I can't, yeah, that's a struggle. But so you went to school, you were going to school, you finished school, and you were working two jobs, and you had your daughter.
Yeah, so I was in college. Yeah. So I was in college. So I had my daughter like my junior year of college, and I didn't want to go back to school because I was ashamed. Like I went through a really dark period. Like that was another low low part of life, but I wasn't a single mom at the time, right? So, I had her, and then she went to stay with my grandma until I was able to find a job and put her in daycare. And so then the following year, like after I got a full-time job, I was still working my job. I was serving tables at a restaurant, or waiting tables. I'm not sure what you guys call it, but yeah, I was doing that. And so I just kept that job, and I had my full-time job, and then I went back to school to finish up. I only had 2 classes. So yeah, I did that with a baby. Yeah.
So you've talked about shame like a couple of times, like not a couple, a lot. Do you think that you would have, and I feel like you've answered it, but I want to ask it more directly. Like, do you feel like you would have felt that shame had you been white?
Probably not. Like, cause I think our community, like, I don't know, I just feel like we are like really vocal. And so we talk about each other a whole lot, whereas I don't think they're that vocal. And so like, if they see someone's family member or see someone's kid who had a baby, like I feel like they're more open than we are to accept like, oh, well, she has a baby, and we're just happy that she had this baby. Whereas, in the Black community, it's like, oh, you're too young to be having a baby. You're a baby having a baby. And there's so much negative talk behind it. Versus like, okay, it's done. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's move on. How can we support you? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really, I think in the Black community, there's like, it means so much more. Like when you just said you're a baby having a baby. And I remember, I think it was Hillary Clinton who said that. Like, I know you're probably way too young, but back in the 90s, like children having children. I was young too, but I remember it. I was like, I think I was I must have been like a teenager at the time. And she was talking about children having children and how they were going to fix that. And that language it's language that's equated with the Black community, right? Like that equals Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as a community of Black people in the Western hemisphere, so whether you're in the US, Canada, or the UK, we've internalized all of that. Like all that all that anti-Blackness, like we have internalized it. So when a 16-year-old, let's use a teenager, like if a 16-year-old girl in high school and she's white gets pregnant, yeah, it's a family crisis, but they come together and like you said, they're like, oh, okay, let's figure out how we can support her. If a 16-year-old girl that's Black gets pregnant, it's a family crisis, but it's also the societal issue, right?
Crisis.
Yeah.
And everybody in the community knows about it.
And you're right. Like as a community, Black people, we are so vocal. And I talked about this on a podcast recently where like we don't hide what we think from each other. We just say it, right? So
Yes, there's no time to think about what you're about to say and how the words are going to affect the other person. It's just literally like you saying whatever you think.
Yes.
And it's terrible.
Yeah, we don't filter with our family. It's pretty clear, right? So whereas I think that white families, I will not use the word respect because I think there's there's some beauty in the fact that we can be so open and speak truth to each other, but it's also harmful. But I think in the white community, there's a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? More tolerance maybe with each other.
Yes.
They handle each other a little softer than we do, I think. And that kind of
most definitely.
Yeah, and that plays in, like that damages relationships, right? And I think we need to work on that. But I think that I don't know you, but based on your podcast and just talking to you, it sounds like you're doing an awesome job. And
What about dating? Like, do you think that dating as a single parent, as a single Black parent, is different? Is there more judgment? Is it harder? How?
Definitely more judgment. Like, come on. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, my grandma, like today, literally, it's like, you have to watch who you have around your kid and you shouldn't be out there dating this person and that person. Not even thinking about whether I'm bringing the kid around the person or not, but just literally just talking and being vocal. Whereas, I always hear these white single moms talk about like, you should date and it's okay to let the kid meet the dad after, you feel it's okay. And like, they're so calm about, dating and being a single mom, and they like actually encourage it.
Mm.
But in the Black community, it's more of like, watch what you have around your kid, da 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 da. They're so like, there is judgment, like, are you gonna try to work it out with the kid's father? You want to be, like, I don't
And you're
know.
like, that
so
ship
much.
has sailed. No. Yeah. So someone said to me the other day, and this is not, she was talking about dating as a Black woman. And she's like, I'm amazed. She's like, I don't understand. And she's like, it's amazing to me that like my white friends will break up with a guy and literally like the next day or the next couple days, they're like,
they'll
someone
have
new.
somebody else.
Yeah. She's just like, she's like, this is so foreign. Like, she's like, it takes me like months or like a year. And she's like, it's so foreign. Like to her that is, and I think that partly it's just sheer numbers. Like it's a numbers game. There are more white people than anybody else, right? And if
maybe so,
right? But even that, so as a single mom, like I would think you're right. And also the other thing I noticed too is that sometimes I'll meet white families and you just take them as at face value. You assume mom, dad, kids, right? And it's only like if you really get to know them or you're talking to them that you realize that it's like, okay, so mom and that's her kid and it's a blended family, right? But you don't, there's just no, like, it's just not even in our mindset that that's a possibility or that could be, it's just not even there, right? You see a family, unless you know that, okay, they're divorced and blah, 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 you just assume they're all like one, right?
A family.
Yeah. And I also think,
on the outside looking in.
And that's really interesting too. And then, so the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I think we've touched on it, but not really really talked about it deeply, is the different levels, and I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but the different levels of acceptability of single motherhood. So there are different tiers. And I heard someone describe it as like, you have at the top, you have the mothers who are older, maybe, mostly white, and who choose to have kids on their own. And then you have like the mom, or maybe at the top it's like the moms who were married, and then they're widowed, right? So there's like the value, and then
like from death.
and then something happened, and oh my God, now they're widowed, but they were married, so they're great, right? And then it's like the list, and I say that sarcastically. And then there's the tier of moms that chose to maybe have kids. They're older and they're like, I really want a baby. I'm going to go and have a kid on my own. And then there's like, I wish I had the article I'm thinking of, but then there's like another tier of moms who maybe are single through divorce. And then there's like a single mom who just was never married and is single. And then, so there's like a tier, right? Like there are different levels to single motherhood. And the higher up you are, it's this idea of that's more acceptable. And often what that means is the higher up you are, it's like the more white it is. And so I guess I'm curious to hear like what you think about that. And if you feel that that's true.
I will say, I don't really think that is true in like our community. I haven't really heard much talk about that. But I do understand where you're coming from because, and I guess, I could see it in some sense, but at the same time, like nobody really talks about it like that. But then, there is a talk about, well, you're a single mom because of this and you're not because you have help or you're co-parenting or you're this and you're that. And so there are, I guess, so in a sense, there are like different levels, and there's like this whole battle between whether you're a single mom or not because of XYZ. Like if you co-parent and you and the kid's father have a split schedule, you have like a custody agreement or whatever, then they say you're not single because you have help. Like you have a co-parent. So I don't know. It's just so many like things out there. And I don't really like subscribe to that. I'm just like, if you're a single mom, you're a single mom. I'm not arguing with you over, like whether you're a single mom or not. Like some people say, okay, they're a mom, they're single, and they have a kid. Like they're a single mom. Like legally, like they're single. They're still single. They're not married. So it's just so many, like you said, levels, and definitely, the divorced, widowed moms, they have like a better rap than like, those of us who've never been married, especially like we're judged so much more. And I don't think those moms are judged at all, right? People are so much more likely to help them out because, they are single moms through loss. Whereas, we're not. And I even had a mom on the podcast. She's Black. And of course, and she is a single mom by choice, and she went through like the sperm bank and everything. And it was just an odd one because like they were, supportive of her decision. But in the beginning, it was kind of like, what is this about? But she talks about her journey and everything. And so even those, I think it's still like as a community, we're still not there yet with the whole single mom by choice deal, like going to a sperm bank and just choosing a donor because you are 37 or 38 and you haven't found that guy yet and your clock is ticking, and you still desire to have a kid or you want that family. And so, I don't know, but yeah. So definitely to answer your question, there are, I guess, levels and acceptability, even though I don't subscribe to it, but it does exist for sure.
If you enjoy listening to the show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you get automatic updates of new episodes every Tuesday. Also, leave a review and let other people know what you think of the show. Don't forget to follow Woke Mommy Chatter at Woke Mommy on Twitter, on Instagram, and follow along on Facebook at Woke Mommy Chatter. Be sure to visit the Woke Mommy Chatter website at www.wokemommychatter.com to help support the production of the podcast.
Thanks for listening to Woke Mommy Chatter.